But next up, and closing off our industry visions and values track for day 5, as it is of Pocket Gamer Connects Digital, is our panel about building the perfect team, which is a perfect follow-on from the last talk that we were listening to. And we've got a variety of people joining us. There's Anna, I can see, who will be moderating our panel. I know there's quite a number of you joining, but hey, it's good to see you.
It's great to see you, Sophie. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Yeah, as I was saying the other day online when we were talking, I miss G-Star.
Oh, me too. I miss G-Star so much. I'm so sad. It was so much fun last year.
It was, wasn't it? For anyone in the audience, we were both in Busan in South Korea for G-Star last year, and obviously G-Star is happening next week, albeit, but for the B2B side, it's digital next week. So you know, it should be great. But I'm sure we're both looking forward to returning next year.
I hope so too.
And before I leave you all to talk, I just want to obviously welcome all of our other wonderful panelists. So I can see we've got Sophie. Let me just check you all off. I've got Renee. I've got Melissa. I've got Minna. I've got Abdellah. Let me just see. It's a big panel, this one. I've got Leyla. And I believe that is all of you. Perfect. So yes, welcome to every single one of you. Lovely to have you here. And I'm sure Anna, as I know, will lead a brilliant panel. I have no doubts about that. But in the interest of letting you guys talk and keeping the flow going in this track, I think I will disappear into the background and leave you all to it.
Thank you so much.
We'll very quickly say,
yes, sure.
Throw any questions to the audience. Throw your questions into the Q&A, because either myself or Anna will be coming to those at the end. But to everyone else, enjoy the panel, and I'm looking forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Thank you for everyone here. I think we can start with some intros. So I will start with myself. My name is Anna Toledo. I am the co-founder, one of the co-founders and CEO of Unicorn Pirates Studio in Helsinki, Finland. We are 100% female, non-binary led studio, and we were built in the values of diversity. That was the reason why we opened the studio in the first place. I'm super happy to see all of you. Let's just start alphabetically. Please introduce yourselves. Abdellah, I think you're the first one.
Hello, so I'm Abdellah from Morocco. I am the CEO and co-founder of Shinko Games. We are mainly focusing on making mobile games. Yeah, that's it. And nice to meet you all.
No, I think it's Leyla.
Yes, it's a bit too early here on the East Coast of America to go through the alphabet. My name is Leila Johnson. I'm the CEO of Mohawk Games. I also I developed the game myself. I am the art director for 2D art, and I'm on the design table and the head writer for a game called Old World, currently in early access.
Awesome. Melissa?
Hi, I'm Melissa Phillips from Silver Rain Games. I'm the head of studio there alongside my co-conspirator, Abu Bakr Salim.
Minna?
Hey everyone, I'm Minna Eloranta. I'm the CEO of Boom Corp in Helsinki, Finland. We actually have an office in Tampere, Finland as well, so we're kind of in 2 cities. And we're 4 co-founders who wanted to create a games business, but while doing fun games with a kind of a game jam attitude.
Awesome. Renee?
Hi, my name is Renee Gittins. I am the Executive Director of the International Game Developers Association, the IGDA, where we support and empower game developers in achieving fulfilling and sustainable careers. And I am the CEO and Creative Director of a small indie studio called Stumbling Cat.
Awesome. Sophie?
Hey, hi, Sophie here. So for me, I have been working over a decade in the gaming industry, and I'm running a studio now in Berlin with Voodoo that I opened a year ago, so to focus on casual games.
That's great. So we are talking about building a perfect team, and I think we all agree that perfect team is a strange concept. So I think we will deconstruct that a little bit during this panel, and all the challenges that perfection would bring as well. But I think we would be talking more of a dream team, of an ideal team, of that team that we want to build together. So the first question that we have is, what is a perfect team for you and your company? What does that mean for you?
Yeah, personally, when I'm looking at a perfect team or trying to define one, I visualize a team that is happy, productive, and proactive. I think that having teammates who respect and collaborate with each other and empower each other to make their own decisions and provide feedback to each other allows for that perfect team where everyone feels safe in giving input and safe in receiving input, and then feels like if they do notice an issue or problem, they can take that and bring it up as an issue or make that their own and work on a solution.
Yes, I would agree with that too. Anyone else?
Totally agree with Renee. I think that's actually in our code of conduct for the company. The team at Mohawk Games actually collaborates regardless if one is one discipline or not. Like the design team can collaborate with the art team. The art team sometimes has input with the design team. It's like everyone has a word to say, and we make it clear that respect is a main thing. And we work a lot on our communication, and knock on wood, we've been, just kind of knocking it out of we've been doing well in that regard. And the star of the show is always the project. So if it's in the best interest of the project, then we're all agreeing.
Abdellah, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so for us, I think that the perfect team is a team that is able to deliver and work quickly on projects, okay? And also a team that is able to communicate and evolve together. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to jump on that idea of evolution, because I think that's having worked with teams that always from the beginning might have not been like so how we could say like the perfect team, like communication is perfect and everyone respects each other. But I think the most important thing is that a team feels safe to improve and they feel like they can improve communication. And I think teams, like perfect teams, aren't formed from the start. Even if you bring all the best and all the best communicators together, you still need to build trust. And I think that's kind of like the evolution is if every month we're seeing like, yeah, we're getting better and everyone's feeling happier. I think that's the best trend to be on, even regardless of where we started, because we can't always pick, of course, a studio leads, we can kind of pick the people we work with, but in bigger studios, people might not, especially developers, might not be able to pick who they work with. So I think it's more important to focus on how we can evolve into really good teams and not how we can maybe build one in the sense of pick, as in people were just resources to choose from. Or
I'm just going to jump off the back of that and say, so we launched our studio in March, and we've had a lot of hard learnings between, in the middle of a pandemic, Black Lives Matter movement and a second Me Too movement in games. We've had a lot of learnings on what we would look for and what the perfect team means. And picking up on the previous comment in regards to, for me, it's well-being. And a lot of studios don't like to talk about well-being. They don't like to hear about well-being because if they hear it, then they have to fix it. And something we're learning is that the sooner you address like disgruntledness and you start to hear these, oh, why do we have a meeting on a Thursday? If we had it on a Monday, it'd be so much easier. I think that's such an easy win for a studio. Like, let's just move the meeting till Monday unless it needs to be on a Thursday. But actually addressing those problems straight away and not letting it fester is such a more healthy way of working. And as a result, you get better well-being in the team. They feel respected, they feel heard. So you have to create a system in which people are being heard and able to feed back. We have a number of different ways in our company for our employees to do that.
That's great. Sophie, do you have something?
Well, all of I would say core for me fundamentals have been mentioned, so I fully agree with what was said. But for me, I'll share more personally what it is to me, and it comes down to a really simple thing that is trust. So I think it's very making games is very tough, as all of you know here, and there are a lot of hard times. There are a lot of moments where you are in doubts. There are conflicts, there are hard changes, And trust is at the foundation to go through all of it. And the second is having a shared why. So a mission, why are we even a team? And I think when this is shared and aligned, there's no need of argument like why we have to do this, because we share the same why we are making games, or why we need to deliver this, or why we need to perform, or whatever is the reason. So for me, it has been, the main things.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think also to make sure that the whole team is on the same page in regards of what is our main goal, because if people are there just because it's a job, I don't think it's going to go any further than what a team can really accomplish. And we've seen a lot in many industries, but also ours, that people rely a lot on superstars. You have the rock stars of the team who do everything. And I would rather have 5 juniors than a rock star, to be very honest. 5 juniors that work really well together are much more valuable to me than a rock star, because games are made of teams. They are not a product that just one person should do. And I think this is one of the things, and I think it was Renee who said the collaboration point, or Leyla, the collaboration is so important. And I think we're moving towards a world that it's not as important to have competition, but that actually collaboration is what moves us forward. And well, in the note, we are talking also about the company culture. So how do you think that company culture connects to how the team is built? How do you think? I think it connects with some of the things you already said. But.
So I'll take that on a personal level and say that I've worked around a toxic team, and where I had to come in and realize, okay, well, this is a person who is contributing to toxicity. This is another person. This is another person. Realizing that there's a clique. So I started forming a code of conduct and applying it. Not just like have it in the background. It's beautiful wording or something that, okay, well, there's a rule. You have to actually apply the rule. And that was, this allowed me to create, I think, a healthier culture at work, and productivity went up. So when we applied the code of conduct, like I held people accountable, some people left, and I had a moment of panic. Oh my gosh, a lot of people are leaving. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna fail? In fact, that we didn't even lose a day in releasing our project. And everyone else who came on board, that was a while ago now, everyone else who came on board pushed the productivity forward. The team is happier. They talk, I feel like they talk in a place where they know is safe, even if it's on Slack under COVID. Everyone is contributing. It's just, it feels like a whole new place. And I'm very happy for something like this. So I'd say I'd have the team follow the culture of the studio. So
I would say that two things. Okay, respect it's one of the things that is very important in our company culture. And I would add also that what we are trying to do, because we are still a small team, is that everyone is working on something that he would like to work on, and on the long term, this will allow everyone to work really on what he likes, and not only on something that he is kind of obligated to work on. Yeah.
Can I just say as well, I think in regards to company cultures, we're seeing a very strange phenomenon at the moment in which companies are feeling pressure to adhere to very specific public goals. So I'm thinking in regards to things like diversity and being able to show that they are on side and supportive of things like diversity pushes. And it's this very strange phenomenon where we get companies that are pushing diversity, but not necessarily showing it within their company culture. And as a result, we get this sort of weird, I see a lot of companies advertising roles at the moment, for example, that are like, we hire women and people of color. And I'm like, that's weird to even state such a thing. Like, you should just be hiring them anyway. Like, but they're putting it in their job posts, which I find bizarre. And I think that's telling us that there's a miscommunication in regards to what companies think is good company culture to what actually might be. So having lots of different faces is great, but not if you're going to value them and create a working experience that, you know, really leans into each of those individuals' abilities. I see a lot of exoticism around, you know, what's our diversity stats? How many women have we got? And it's more than that. It's and then I also see when they come into the culture that they then become part of, well, you're the savior now to champion for all women because we've got one woman and she's now responsible for transforming this studio. And that kind of picks up on the last talk that we were just in the back of, you know, like if you bring them in, more will come. But we have to try and figure out how this can also be a healthy experience, you know, that we don't have big corporations that are just hiring so that they can line us all up and show diversity, but they're actually taking steps to create a good company culture. So I think that starts very much at the heart of who the company is. It starts at very much at who your team leaders are. And again, it comes back to, I can't remember who said about having a shared goal and shared milestones that all of that team come into. One of the books that I really recommend is Tribal Leadership. And this is the idea of not seeing us as a workforce, but seeing us as a tribe. And the bigger that we get, the more diaspora these tribes become. You know, we have to separate into smaller tribes. And then what you get is a studio where you're this bunch of different tribes, all represented by different people fighting in amongst each other. So how do we keep it in a way in which everybody is moving towards that same part? And that has to start from the leadership and is integral to your company culture.
So when it comes to building a team and that company culture, obviously, as noted, it is an integral part of building a team. And I think that if we just look at the process around building a team, the interview process, the in-person interview process, in my opinion, is 75% interviewing for culture fit and maybe 25% confirming skill set or other values. But really, when, you know, I've been a hiring manager for a while now, and when someone comes on site to interview, the things that I'm looking for is that they can both take feedback and that they can potentially in the future be a good mentor, that, you know, they are going to be a person who fits well with the culture of the team. And the one time I decided not to give feedback because I had a difficult time interviewing someone, it turns out that they were a terrible culture fit and they didn't work with the team, and it was just painful until they actually they decided to leave the team themselves. But it just shows, sure, they can blow a programming test out of the water, but if they don't fit culturally, then you shouldn't bring them on. It's just too painful to try to shove a round person into a square hole of your culture.
And you're lucky, Renee, for them wanting to leave themselves. It would have been worse of them staying.
It was an entire thing. Yeah, we had been considering letting them go, but then they started facing health difficulties, and so we didn't want to let them go during that time.
Yeah, and I feel like there's also this kind of, at least in Finland right now, I think we're all the time needing more workforce into the games industry, especially more like mid-career and senior people. And I think lots of companies might not value culture fit that much, and people, especially like company owners, aren't thinking about these issues too much. They're thinking, oh, we really need a programmer for this project. And then they become full-time hires, and they've kind of gone with that HR attitude for, they might not even have an HR person. It's maybe the CEO or just like someone from the company interviewing, and then suddenly you have a 25-person company who doesn't share anything. And I think from there, it's really tough to decide, okay, what is the company culture? When we're still small studio owners, we can use this time to kind of think, okay, what do we want this to be? And I think most times there might be a situation where the company just grows and grows, and we're thinking like, oh, we're not big enough to think about these kind of stuff. And actually, even with just 2-3 people, I think that's one of the most important questions to ask, like, who are we and how do we represent ourselves, and what kind of people fit, like how, and also it's about self-reflection as well, like what kind of person am I, how are we as a team, and so on. So
Yes.
I'll share here also my case, which I think is, I understand from a panel, it might be different here. So when I think about company culture, so I'm at Voodoo, which is, I would say, now a good size of company. We're about 300 people. The company culture existed before I joined, and then I came to build a studio with my own philosophy, values, and how do these interact with each other. So, and it actually makes it even more complicated in hiring, because in hiring, we have also people from the organization who are interviewing, and if it's not a good match in terms of company values, but in team values, how do we make this work together? And company values is one thing, but it's not very applicable on a daily basis for a team. I think the culture is actually more in the actions, the behavior that people have. And this is where you see the real value. So framing company values help as a reference point, and this is how I have used it at Voodoo. We have 6 values. I won't go through it, but I had very clear values for the team I wanted to build, and that was what I was hiring for when I was going in interviews. One important was, for example, growth mindset, and I think also some of you mentioned this. It's an environment that changes a lot, not to mention even the team, the projects, when you stop, when you start, when you change the team. So this is one of the key values for me, and that is not necessarily part of the company values, but for our practical work, it is very important. So in the end, the values for me are the ones that are carried by the people, of course, modeled more by the leadership. So we are living the culture by the actions we're doing, and then we encourage them by also the roles we have when, as a lead, a CEO, all the positions that have teams.
Yes, it's true. I think that also connects to our next question, which is how to ensure all employees, they feel appreciated and part of the team, because we have, of course, the leadership. But how to ensure that all the cells in our companies feel appreciated? For example, a lot of startups don't have a lot of money, so we can show appreciation monetarily. So how do you do it?
I think it's through communication, and setting a culture of positive feedback as well. If you thank people for their hard work or applaud them for their efforts, even if those efforts aren't always successful, I think that begins to make people feel valued and also empowers them to give the same types of comments and support to their peers as well. And so as long as you keep planting those seeds and investing that positive and supportive attitude, then I think that's what will grow within your studio as well.
In our company, we have profit sharing. 25% profit sharing with a team. We are relatively small. With contractors, we're about 40 now, but we are at height, like the peak of the project. So, but I am big on communication. Actually, this is where I come from. I come from journalism and communication. I can feel, I have this instinct. Yesterday in a meeting, I saw one of our employees having, her face was kind of, I felt there's something. So I communicated, it's like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I had a rough day. It's like, I was on the phone, like 5-6 minutes. I was just there talking, just checking her, just what's going on. And I found out, and it was terrible. Yeah, the person in charge or the people in charge need to kind of keep an eye out and, think of them as also friends. It is hard when you're the CEO. I know I'll never be friends. Like, I have accepted that because, regardless, I'll always be this person of authority, and it's sad, right? That's all I have right now in my life.
I know, but I'm there.
Yeah. But I try and I want to, like, the fact that you want to make sure that they're okay, that it's fundamental for you to make sure that they're okay, goes a long way.
I think you can think a little bit. Oh, sorry, Abdellah, please.
Yeah, I would say because we are still a small team and all the members are actually the founders. Okay, that the main thing for us is really evolving together and have the same vision. But for the employees, I don't really have an answer, a specific answer right now. But yeah.
I think so.
I just have a question for Leyla. Why do you think that a CEO can't be friends with
well, I actually asked it to one of the most candid, I think, employees of ours, and he said, like, it is hard because I'll always determine their fate. You know, I'm an owner and also a CEO. So if they kind of mess up, you know, they always want to tell me their opinion, but they'll always keep me that, oh, you're the CEO. So I'll always have the filtered version. And that kind of grounded me. I heard that last year and it grounded me. So now I feel like, well, I have to accept it. I would love for me to build a relationship where this is not a barrier. That's my ideal scenario, but I have to always keep in mind that if I'm going to determine,
it's impossible. It's about power relations. If I'm responsible for deciding on your career, then I have to, it's my responsibility to make sure that I am judging you fairly with as little non-bias as possible. And if you're my best friend or we're in a relationship, that causes trouble. Even if I'm aware of that still causes trouble. I mean, I started a studio with my friend. We are, you know, co-founders together, and there are difficult times where I have to tell him, you know, you are the chaos. My job is to stop chaos at every level as soon as possible, and sometimes he is the chaos, and therefore we have to have words, and it's hard. It is hard. It's much harder when you're in that relationship with each other than it is if you're an employee. But you just have to be aware, and it's unfair of you as well to put a friendship relationship onto an employee if you know that you are in a position of power above them. And this is kind of why we end up with these Me Too movements where these positions become blurred. And I'm not saying don't be nice to them and don't have relationships in regards to like a friendly relationship, but you just have to be very aware now of who you are to them, not how they make you feel.
Yeah, I agree with you, Melissa, 100%. And I think like in the past, I've had issues with when I've been in an employee role with bosses kind of thinking that they're not my boss. They want to be a friend, and people not realizing their kind of power, this kind of power relationship. And like you said, like I think people can have amazing relationships with their coworkers and also with their bosses, also with the CEOs of the company, but also I think always the person in power has to have responsibility. They have to really take responsibility and how they act and realize
and
they always have the final straw kind of thing. So
exactly, I think the awareness is the biggest thing as well, not only because for me a lot of people in our company, they were my friends before the company, so that is also a completely different dynamic in itself, but when you have a little bit of more of a flat structure like we have, these things get a little bit more diluted, but there is still a power relationship that cannot be denied. It's how it is. And but of course that doesn't make me the queen of everything. It just makes me in another senior position. And I think it is very important to everybody know that you are a team. And even though I'm in management, I'm not like sitting back and having a cocktail and going like, you do this. That's not what we are doing. We're actually working a lot. There are some people who are like that. I'm not saying anything, but I don't think we are these kinds of leaders. And the leader has to put themselves out there as well. So, well, we are getting almost to the end. So how do you advise other studios on building this ideal team that follows our values and our culture and our goals that we've been discussing?
I can jump in because that's what I've been doing when I was building the studio a year ago as well, and starting actually really from scratch. So where to start was a question like, should I first come up with a vision of a game we're making and then hire people, which order? And in the end, I think of a game studio really as a game for the long run. So your next game you are thinking of is probably not the one that will go very far. As we know, it's very hard. So the team, the people is the game, what you are building for. And my advice here would be really, instead of focusing too much on the vision of what you want to build, have more a vision of what kind of people, values, characters you need to go through whatever the journey, wherever it will take you. Having a vision of the team, the values you want, and then framing then in the hiring process of how will you evaluate these values during the recruitment, and following this very diligently during, I don't know, the probation period, training, coaching, to keep an eye on what kind of team you're building, and you understand this more through the process organically. Because now a year after, I had the vision of a team I wanted to build, and now I see with my eyes and my heart the team I have, and it's beyond what I have imagined. It's even better. But in the end, the people make the culture once again. So it's as far as you can envision it, and then you have to correct it once you have more clarity about it.
That's really, really great. Anyone else?
I would say that I have one advice, okay, for small teams at the beginning. It's work together first, then be friends later. That would be my advice for building a team. Yeah.
My advice is, oh, go ahead, Abdellah.
No, go ahead.
My advice is also take advice. When I had trouble, I tapped friends in the industry. I'm like, hey, listen, without naming names, this is what I'm dealing with. You know, you are in my position. What would you do? What has been your experience? And I've got, you know, a lot of feedback, which actually helped me go in the right direction, hopefully. I think I'm in the right place today, but, you know, it's just, again, I'm like up there looking, you know, like, is this what it is? Is this real? I'm so happy. I hope it's real. So ask for advice. I have none to give. I just, you know, collect data before you.
You'll never know.
Collect data before you give input. So
we have talked a lot about company culture and company values. And I think what's important is when you're building out your team, when you're doing those interviews and talking to people, to not just talk about your company values, but to truly show them. Like if candor and truthfulness is part of your core company values, and somebody asks you how your project is going, in an interview, you should be truthful about how your project is going and be like, hey, we hit a little rough bump here because of this. We hope to overcome it because of that, and see how they respond to that. Because seeing you express your company values is going to attract the people who will support those, right? And I think that is very core to building that healthy culture and that healthy team.
And I also add, I think, you know, culture is at a 3-stage level as well. We often think it's just to do with the internal workings of a studio, but it's not just that. It's, you know, the product that you're putting out is important as well to how people from the outside view your studio and your studio culture. And not only that, but the audience in who interact with that as well. There's a whole, you know, it's a 3-pronged approach to the on-screen, off-screen, and your audience that you're dealing with are all part of what feeds into your wider company culture. And ultimately, not only how your team sees you, but how potential applicants are also looking at the studio to join.
Yeah, when I think back to the teams I've worked with and the teams we've been kind of building together now with Boom Corp as well, I think respect is one of the most important key features to have with people. I think we all have our flaws and we have all our bad days, and people might say silly, like stupid stuff to each other, but if in the end, if after having a bad day, you can go to the other person like, hey, sorry, I had a bad day, I didn't mean that. You know, this kind of culture of respecting each other, and also I think also being aware of our own biases when hiring, and not only hiring the people you kind of like like this is just, but actually thinking about like, will their skills be a fit to the team? Will their like we talked about team fit and building this kind of good team. I don't always believe like people that, like when we're in situations as producers, as studio owners, we'd like to pick the people that seem like us. That's a bias that everyone does. but I think it's kind of more important to think like, I think it would be better to have lots of people on that. Like if like we're 4 people in the studio, I'd love every one of us to be there and meetings deciding like who will we hire and this kind of thing. So it doesn't become this one bias of I like this person. And it might become this like echo chamber of I love people disagreeing. I think like a perfect team disagrees a lot, but respects each other a lot as well. And that's how we can make like global and good games and diverse games when we're not all on the same page all the time. And it's probably more about like working with this disagreements respectfully than not having disagreements at all and just always being happy, which is a dream scenario, which won't happen in any case.
I think even being happy is not that much of a dream scenario, because I think if everyone is happy all the time, there's something very wrong going on. And Abdellah also said that the same thing as you, Minna, the respect is extremely important. The respect is where you can really go through all the paths that we are telling now. When you respect each other and you respect the other person, and some people are not very respectful, but some people also, yeah, sorry, yes.
Yeah, I think there's like the biggest maybe personal issues I've had with people is usually like I said, I think respect is a really hard skill to learn, and if you're already in very well into your adult life without learning to respect other people, it's really hard to change that in like a year or something in a team. So
that's so true. Yes, and I think this is one of these things that it's very hard to also point out, because people will get very defensive. It's much easier to say, hey, your drawing is, I don't know, not according to what we want. That's much easier to take than you are not respecting your co-workers or your leadership or whatever it is. And people are going to be extremely defensive over that. So it's also important to create, I think, this environment of feedback, because then when this environment of feedback is so prominent, when you point something that out, people are probably going to receive it differently. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe so, yes. All right. Renee?
I think one of the best skills that you can encourage and foster in a team, particularly if people haven't acquired it yet, is the ability for self-reflection. Because when it comes to giving criticism on someone's behavior towards their coworkers or things like that, I think if you can encourage them to be self-reflective and consider situations and problems from a different perspective, from and looking internally perspective, that can plant the seeds that cause people to grow into better coworkers and into better contributors. And I think those seeds are easier to plant than it is to give that feedback, because a lot of that feedback has to be self-internalized prior to them receiving it, or else they are going to react very poorly to receiving it.
Absolutely. True. I agree 1000% with Renee, if that exists even. Because it's already hard for us to really, I don't know if it's the same for you, but for us to identify a problem and formulate a way to communicate with the employee and give them that critiquing, it's already a journey for us that we have to make. So by the time we do this and receiving pushback after pushback after pushback, you'll come to a place where it's either pointless to give them critique and you have to accept whatever is happening. It becomes harder when, this is becoming a conduct issue with other employees, because you can put on yourself as much and, take as much of that and say, you know what, I can deal with it. You'll have to deal with it differently if it concerns other employees. And this is where, this is where our journey ends, because of the inability to receive critique. And that's really.
And how do you handle when you have a problem in leadership? How would you handle it?
I'm leadership, so
you managing up for leadership above or managing down for other leadership? I think both of those.
I think both of those can be complex, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Managing up is a very difficult skill and a very important skill. I think that it is possible to start poking around more with questions than it is to do any other type of feedback. Managing up is always best done, I think, through questions, questions and praise. It's like, oh, that's a really interesting idea. So that means you've considered this. And, and oh, do you think that's going to solve this other problem that we have? And, you know, you're not forcing anything, but you are, you know, giving those hints, that direction, and giving them an opportunity to own the correct solution and to own that forward progress. And I think that's the best way to manage up for leadership who you have difficulties with. When it comes to managing leaders, I think that having a good policy where you are open with them and you ask them to be open with you, and you practice that, so that when there is difficulty, you know, you can say, hey, I've been really appreciating your work. I've noticed that there's been this issue. Let's talk on how we can work through this. Like, let's talk on what I can do to empower you to improve in these areas. Let me know if you need anything. And that way it doesn't feel like you're messing up and this is your fault. It's like, hey, this is an issue. Let's work on it together. And most of the time, even if you say, let's work on it together, they can probably figure it out on their own. But just offering that olive branch is enough for them to feel like they are being supported through that criticism, that it's not just an attack.
Mm-hmm. I have learned actually also through my career that about the upward feedback, which is very hard, but there's a position of power. So when the way you talk to the person is not the same way that you would help and coach your team members, and actually shouldn't be any different. Sometimes your leaders need to be coached to understand what you're trying to achieve here, that you are affected by the way of communication that is not always ideal. And it's the same. It's hard because there's a power struggle, but I think it's the one that works over time to build the trust of a relationship upward, same way.
Yes, it's a very different topic, I think, also because we are now slowly building different cultures and in companies in general. I think that the idea of company, the idea of leadership, they're getting into a very different concept. We're not working anymore with that 19th century, early 20th century concept of the big boss having a whiskey at 2 p.m. and you're fired kind of movie thing. I think we are changing a lot. And as a historian, I'm originally a historian. I'm in the gaming industry somehow, and this was a very, very short time ago. So I think it's very important to have panels as these so that we can discuss, because it seems like we are talking about common sense, but it's not as common as you would believe. And I've seen so many companies have values that they don't follow at all. And you can see it in 5 minutes. It's like, it's not even a thing, and mistreating their employees, or as Melissa said, using diversity as a buzzword, not really as a value and a thing that exists. It's more like, I want to look good to people. And I believe it's very important that we continue to discuss these things so that we can make the gaming industry also a little bit more diverse, healthier, and because gamers are very diverse as well. We cannot forget our players. They are the most important part of our jobs, and we need to represent them. And if we have a horrible team, we are not gonna make games with, I'm sorry, you are not gonna make games with care, because if you don't care, why would your player care? So I think that's extremely important to put the product out there. I think we still have a few minutes. Anyone? Oh no, Sophia is coming. Sophia is coming back. Hey, Sophia.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, yeah, unfortunately, we have reached time on the panel, I'm afraid. But I was going to say, I mean, what didn't you guys cover in that panel? I mean, I think it went through just about everything, didn't it? Which is fantastic.
We did a coaching session.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, so no, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. I know that we we sadly haven't got any time for question and answer, but like I say, I think you guys covered just about everything. But I don't know if any of you are going to be in the Discord later, but if so, people can hopefully grab you if they've got any further questions.
And I just wanted to say, please, anyone that is interested, please add me on LinkedIn, also to know what our company is doing. And I probably think my fellow panelists will also agree. And I hope to see you all soon. I think this was it was a very good learning experience for me. It was really great. Thank you. And
Yeah,
thank you, Sophia.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And as the IGDA, it is literally our purpose to help you be successful in the games industry. So reach out to us, reach out to me if you need anything at all.
Great energy, just great way to start the morning.
Yes, thank you, Leila.
Oh yeah, well,
contagious. Your energy is contagious. I needed that waking up.
Thank you.
Yes, it is. It very much is. It's a brilliant pick-me-up for the rest of the day. Oh, thank you so much to all of you. It's been an absolutely fantastic way to end a brilliant morning on the Industry Visions and Values track. It's always one of my favorite tracks to help introduce you all and be a part of. And so thank you for all of you for sharing all your wisdom and knowledge.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a
you
great
all.
day. Bye.
You too. Yeah, have a great day, everyone. Get some coffee, recharge, get ready for the afternoon.